Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Misty. The channel's name is Speculative Magpie, and I thought I'd do a TBR for August as a video. The reason why I'm doing a to be read video is because I kind of want to take part in the Spooky Smart Bitches Readathon, read along, read something for the month of August. I think it might help me to have everything planned out, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see how my depression lets me read. We are getting a new doctor at work, so we're going to have 2 doctors in the office. So that might be actually detrimental. It could help. Maybe I'll get more reading at home. Either way, I figured we'd see how it goes. Okay, so I think I remember most of the prompts, and if I forget something, I'll add it later in a book review for one of the books or whatever. So one of the first prompts I remember is they're doing sort of like a group read, and the group read is the graveyard apartment, or the apartment graveyard. I don't remember the book title, but I decided not to read that simply because about 2 years ago I already read the book. And yeah, I can't remember the exact title. I think it was the graveyard apartment. And it was a good book. I enjoyed it, but I read it 2 years ago. It wasn't that great of a book, and I just don't want to reread it. So I thought about doing another Japanese book that I had, and this one is called The Tales of Moonlight and Rain by Judea Akamenari. I'm saying that wrong, translated by Anthony J. Chambers. Now, I've had this book probably about 5 years. I've never read it. This one is probably more academic than what I would normally read. This book was written at the end of the Indo period, late 18th century. It's a book of 9 supernatural, not necessarily scary or horror books, but 9 supernatural short stories. We'll just see how my brain handles it. The cool thing about this translation is that the translator did a whole bunch of like footnotes and discussions at the end of the book. So hopefully that'll let my not quite neurotypical brain handle it a little bit better. But I've had this for a while. I've wanted to read this for a while. This seemed like a good reason to read it. So yeah, that one. And then one of the other prompts was to read a translated book by someone that's not, English or American or writes in English. And I don't have a physical copy of that book. It's on my Kindle. It's the book Hex. I've had that book for probably about 3 or 4 years again, just sitting on my Kindle. Seems like a good reason to read it. It's like a horror, dark fairy tale kind of thing. It's about this town, I believe, in Sweden that has sort of like this magical corpse that appears at different parts all over the town, and they have like cameras and like message boards about it, about where this corpse shows up. And basically these kids are tired of being sequestered in this town, and they kind of want to break free. So I thought I might read that one since I've had it for so long. And then one of the other prompts was to read a book written by a person of color or starring in a pivotal role a person of color. I thought about reading an Octavia Butler book. I thought about reading Fledglings, but I saw another person who's doing this. She's going to read a book called The Last Final Girl, kind of like an homage to 80s slasher movies, and that just sounded cool as fuck. And so I ordered that one, and I think I'm going to read that one instead. Just the thought of a serial killer wearing a Michael Jackson mask and being called the Billie Jean Killer just seemed interesting to me and something that I wanted to read. And then one of the other prompts was read a book by a female author. I read a lot of books by female authors. I tend to gravitate towards female authors. It's only recently that I really started reading men authors, not on purpose, even though my favorite author in the world happens to be a male author. But yeah, so, and I wanted specifically a horror book. And I've seen a lot of Darcy Coates books being bandied about on YouTube, and this one was in a display at my local Barnes and Noble, and so I was just like, I want the book in the window, and so I got that one. This is Craven Manor. She writes a lot of haunted house books, or horror books that take place in spooky houses, and I kind of dig that, so I thought I'd do that one for that prompt. And then one of the other prompts was read a book that's over 400 pages. I don't really look at books as far as page count goes normally. If it's a book I want to read, it's a book that I'm going to read no matter what the page count is. It really doesn't affect me one way or the other. Because of my depression and everything else, my attention span is not that great. So some of the books that I'm reading have been shorter than what I would normally, pick up. But then again, I really don't pay attention to that. So I picked 2 Stephen King books that have been on my reading list for a while. I'm not really a constant reader. I'm a fan. I really enjoy Stephen King. So these are kind of new. These aren't older books, and I haven't really decided which one I'm going to read. I'm either going to read The Outsider or Dr. Sleep. Now, I want to read The Outsider because of the miniseries that's on HBO, or the series, I don't know what to call them anymore, the TV show that's on the HBO streaming service. A lot of friends of mine have said it's really good, really worth watching. I watched one episode and then realized I'd really rather read the book before I started watching the episode. So yeah, and then Dr. Sleep I picked up pretty much for the same reason. I started watching the movie like a couple days ago and got really frustrated with it because I knew they were leaving out so much. And I was like, I just can't watch this right now. So I turned off the movie and got the book out. And this is a good excuse for me to do it. So I'll be picking one of those books to read for my over 200 pages thing. And then another one of the prompts was, I think this is the last prompt. I think I got all of them. Like I said, if I hadn't, I will just add it as I go along. And I'll also post for the 2 people that are hosting the Spooky Smart Bitches Read tag, whatever, in my tagline in the bottom. One of the guys calls it his doobly-doo, one of them calls it the basement, the little description at the bottom. I'll post in case you guys want to join along for that. But one of the prompts I remember was read a book from the 1970s to the 1990s. Now, where's my book? Ah, there it is. I have like a couple of books. I thought about reading this one, Vampires by John Stakely. Yeah, great name for a vampire novel. This one came out probably in 1992. Full disclosure, I read this in 1992. I loved this vampire novel. Please ignore the James Wood movie that they made based on the book. It's typical Hollywood. Yeah. It's gonna be about. No, nothing like this fucking book. I hated the fucking movie. It sucked horribly. This book though was a lot of fun. It's testosterone filled. It's just this group of vampire hunters sanctioned by the church. It's more like a football team. And they're going after this kind of like this little group of vampires. And the cool thing about the vampires is they're not sexy. They're scary vampires. One of the vampires tries to be sexy and he just comes off as a total Chad. So yeah, this book made me laugh. This made me cry. This book made me angry. It was a lot of fun. I read it well over 20 years ago, almost 30. So I thought about picking it up again. I bought it just because I found it in a used bookstore and I had good memories of this book. It would be kind of fun to revisit it, but I don't know if I'll do that for this. Then I have two more to pick from. I don't know if this would be considered horror though. This is Barbara Hendley's Those That Hunt the Night. This is like late 80s. Basically, there's vampires are not so much as hidden in the dark shadows of the world. They're kind of out in the open, but not really. They're like upper class, but only in London. And there's a serial killer going around that's killing vampires. So the vampire basically hires this detective, well, doesn't hire, kind of blackmails him, saying, you're going to help me find the serial killer or I'm going to kill your family. So they go around and they try to find this serial killer that's killing vampires. I've never read it. This book has been on my radar since the early 80s. So it'd be kind of cool to actually pick this up and read it. I actually forgot I had this book. And so before I realized I had it when I was going over my bookshelves, I went to eBay and ordered this book. Out of the Night by Patrick Whalen. And to be perfectly honest, I just ordered it because I love the cover. I thought it looked neat, and it's from like 1980 something again. I should probably try to find a book from the 70s, but you know, I could read a Stephen King I got hanging around if I wanted to, but no. This book is basically about a small town in California. These bad guys came and tried to wipe out the town back in like the Wild West days, and they got murderized and buried on this hill. And like 100 years later, serial killers are happening again, and an old sheriff and one guy are the only people that believe it could possibly be the people that were buried on the hill. And so that sounded cool, so I got this one, and I, at the same order, because you can never just order one book from Amazon, I ordered, God, what did I order? Another Ramsey Campbell Overnight about monsters in a bookstore. That sounds promising, so I'm definitely going to read that one, whether I read it for this read along or not. And I got The Final Girl, and one that's from like the early 2000s, which was about vampires that work for the president. I don't know. another friend of mine said it was a good book and got it. So yeah, those are the books that I'm reading for the Spooky Smart Bitches Read Along. We'll see. I think the first one I'm going to read is probably going to be one of the Stephen Kings, just to get the 400-page one out of the way, and then I'll move on from there. So hopefully you can't hear my dog snoring next to me. He's asleep. But anyway, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. I'm going to give it the good old college try. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you about books next time. Bye.